For those of you who have been able to sit back at home and go on the internet and order for goods, I'm sure you'll enjoy the comforts that comes with that. And with us in the studio, two gentlemen to give us perspectives into the growth of e-commerce business in Nigeria. We have here with us Bankole Cardoso, is the MD, Easy Taxi Nigeria. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And of course we have Tobina Okole, the CEO, Solomon Hunt Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming on the program. Okay, let's get started. E-commerce in Nigeria. What's it about, and how is it like right now? I'm going to start with Tobina.
Well, e-commerce essentially is the buying of goods and perhaps services over the internet. That's just the basic definition. In Nigeria, e-commerce is growing very rapidly. In the past, for 2012, it was estimated that we did about 75 billion Naira in transactions, e-commerce transactions. So that gives you, and is estimated to grow to about 150 billion per annum in about 2 years. So that's the state of e-commerce in Nigeria. Typically, the kind of companies you see rendering e-commerce services are companies that do retail, that sell retail items, phones, clothes, TVs, and the like, airline tickets, and then also you have media, music, movies, and those are essentially the major e-commerce practitioners that we have in the country right now.
Okay, Bankole, I want to have your view about the growth of e-commerce in Nigeria. What's your take on that?
Just like Tobina said, e-commerce is a booming industry in Nigeria. I think in the last 3-4 years, we've seen a lot more people coming online. Nigerians are coming online more, so more people have access to the internet. And that in turn leads to more people having greater options online. They no longer need to go to the shop to be able to shop for goods. You can get a wide array of choices on the internet, and it's very convenient for a lot of people. So that in turn is leading to the growth in e-commerce in Nigeria, and it's only projected to grow to like the 200 billion Naira industry in the next 2 years. And as the GDP of Nigeria keeps rising as well, and people have more purchasing power, it's only projected to grow even more. Okay,
Tobina, I'm just curious. Bankole said that more people have access to internet, and I'm just curious to know the level of internet penetration and accessibility to the internet, because that will be a defining factor to how well and how fast e-commerce grow in Nigeria.
Well, internet penetration can be looked at two ways. You can look at penetration via regular computers or penetration via mobile phones. For regular computers, the figure should be somewhere between 20 and 30%, but a majority of Nigerians access the internet through their phones. We have over 110 million phone lines in Nigeria, and about 40% of those lines of those phones, about 40% are smartphones, and essentially about 35% of that 40%, let's say essentially 35% of the entire subscribers in Nigeria access the internet through their phones, which is something in the world of almost 40 million. So that's the level of internet penetration in Nigeria. And with that kind, and the demography of people who use their phones to browse the internet are actually the demography that would typically use e-commerce. And you're talking about the younger people, say people between 18 and 40. And another good thing is broadband or bandwidth, whatever, is growing in the country. Internet access, I'm not just talking of quantity now, the quality is actually growing and prices are actually coming down. But although we would like to see prices come considerably down so that more people can use the internet to do a whole lot more, of which e-commerce is one of those things.
If you look at the statistics from the wires, we saw that e-commerce across the rest of the world is growing at 16.8%. And for Africa, the space is growing at a rate of 25.8%, making it the fastest growing in the world. What does this say to that potential that we have in Nigeria? I'm going to start with Bankole in that. What potential do you think that would have for us going forward?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, Africa is growing at 25%, the smartphone penetration. This is because of, phones are getting more affordable for most people. The prices are dropping, and bandwidth as well is more available, and the price of the internet is more affordable for people as well. I think that as time goes on and more people come online, and the smartphone penetration rises as well, more people will have access to those kind of goods.
Okay, I'm going to ask you on the central bank's cashless policy, because that's been one of the defining factors for the growth of e-commerce in Nigeria. The Apex Bank wants us to spend less cash, while you still hold cash, but don't hold too much of cash. But how has that helped the growth of e-commerce, Tobina?
That has helped the growth of e-commerce considerably, even though we see that to penetrate the market, a couple of e-commerce practitioners have had to employ cash on delivery models where they deliver the item to you and you pay them cash. But the thing is, with the trust that these guys are rendering the services and delivering on time and at good quality, people are now getting more convinced about actually going online to make those transactions online, pay online, and get the goods delivered to them. So the cashless policy is really taking roots in the country. We see that things like CBN Instant Cash, NIBS, all those, CBN having a central switch, all those help for transactions to be faster, transactions to be smoother, and for e-commerce to grow. So I think the cashless policy, we can do a whole lot better, but we are seeing healthy growth.
Okay, Bankole, why do you think people sit back at home and just order for items when they're not sure whether it's going to be good on them, for instance, and if the shoes will fit them, or fit the feet, the legs, and all of that? Why do you think people do this, even when they're not sure of how the item will turn out to be?
I think the number one factor is convenience. I think you could be at work or at home and have internet access, and instead of going to the shop and spending the 2 hours on your way to the shop or whatever, you can order goods online. What most of the e-commerce suppliers here do is they give you the option to change the good. So people have that trust as well, that if this shoe doesn't fit me, I can return it for free and get another one. So I think convenience and trust are the main factors that people are comfortable shopping online.
And options.
And options, yes. And I was going to say, and there's so much choice. People have greater choice. You can go to 3 or 4 different websites, and within that website you can see about 5 different types of shoes. In that particular, whatever you're looking for, you can find a lot of choice. So.
Okay, Tobina, I was just curious about the fact that in some parts of Nigeria, especially the volatile area in the northeast, I'm looking at the spread of the e-commerce, not just here, but southwest and maybe southeast. We're looking at northeast, for instance, where there's been some kind of insurgency by militant groups. How do you think that would affect e-commerce in that part of Nigeria?
It will affect it considerably, because you have to consider that the parts where you see, for example, if I'm accessing an e-commerce site with my phone, the parts you see on the phone is not the end of the transaction. There's the logistics end at the back end where they have to actually supply you with the item. So if you stay in a hotspot where there's violence or there's the threat of violence, it naturally dissuades e-commerce practitioners from rendering their services in those areas. So naturally, if there's insecurity in an area, it will hamper their ability to access e-commerce goods and services. However, if you're talking of digital goods like movies or songs, they can freely access those things if they have internet connection in that area.
There seems to be a shift in consumer behaviors since e-commerce has taken center stage. Do you think that may affect our ability to negotiate? Because these prices you see posted on the website or the internet or whatever have fixed prices. We don't have that ability to negotiate prices like we usually do, to bargain and say, oh, this is expensive, can't I pay lesser? Hasn't that affected that aspect of our choices?
I agree. Nigerians, we love to negotiate. So e-commerce has removed that negotiation ability, because you go on the site, you see, okay, this is the price. It's 6,000 Naira. That's the final price. So
nothing less.
nothing less. And I think people are comfortable with that, because what most e-commerce sites would show you is that this good that is 6,000 naira has been discounted already. So people like to see that, okay, that, there's a 7,500 naira and there's a dash through it showing that it's discounted already. So the consumer feels that, okay, I'm still getting the bargain. So I don't have to waste my time negotiating.